All right, welcome back, everybody. Gonna do it this week without my friend Matthew. He's out traveling and doing stuff, and shaking babies and kissing hands. He's just out there doing his thing. He's got a lot going on. He's a fund manager in many ways, so busy dude. But I do have my group of Bullish Bears with me in the Discord channel, and we are all tuned up to go live and start throwing a little shade at Cramer together, but also finding some swing trades is kind of what we're here for. So thanks again for joining us. And if you caught us on not last week, but the week before, I took a little hiatus last week. The week before, we had 9 out of 10 callouts nailed targets, which is still pretty unbelievable, but kind of seems to be what we naturally do here. We're really good at finding price targets. So currently we're looking at SPY. We've been trading this all morning. Found a nice diamond pattern, found some pretty easy support and resistance. Didn't get every trade, but we got a few good ones. Now we're looking at a reversion trade from our angular resistance of the bear channel back to about the mean of the diamond here. We're in the regression now and breaking out, looking for a north target in this liquidity zone. Pretty easy day on SPY after this kind of rough, rocky opening with a nice little bear trend, which we did scalp some of that too. Now we're looking for just returns to liquidity zones, and a mean reversion would be right up here at about 531.95-ish on SPY. And we could see a little bit of an outside move from there maybe later in the day if we get there. Looking down the road on SPY, we've got quite the thing to think about here. And we were pointing this out in the chat earlier. This hammer here was a little ominous. It's not in the best place to be a bullish continuation. That doesn't mean we're going to end this trend. It's just we're getting a bit parabolic here. We've got to have some rationale here at some point. And I think today's range is going to be just a big bar. By the end of the day, it may close a nice green bar about equal to this one and push that 533 a little higher, maybe down around 533.50 or 534 is possible for a close today if we get a repeat of this range bar here on a daily. Kind of be careful with that. SPY can be very vicious all of a sudden. So we know diamond patterns typically precede volatility, and we certainly got a nice one this morning. And it's given us this volatility here. But there's other stuff in the pipe later on today, so just kind of be aware of that. Let's move into some Cramer stuff. We're here to throw shade at the guy. We got to call him out on a few things. I'm going to start with WSM. He said, buy this one. And, if ever there was a Cramer bar, that's a Cramer bar. Holy smokes. Massive range. But look, it made exactly a measured move from its consolidation point. But this still looks like a giant M top. In fact, on the weekly chart, I was pointing it out this morning. If it breaks this support level, it'd be a nice short all the way down here to about 232, maybe 233. And all it's got to do is crack through this, 277, 278 floor here. For now, I would say it wouldn't be a wise idea to chase this parabolic trend anyway. It's kind of due for a pullback. So I might say a little bit of, you top tick this one, man. Cramer kind of picked off the wrong thing to buy, but maybe we get a short-term reversion trade out of it as well. It could possibly rebound and maybe give half that back, but not so sure about that. I think we're going to probably maybe reject off around 288 on this one and then continue south. So watch for a decent short setup on this one, I think. Moving on. Disney. Why the heck would anybody want to buy Disney right now? Holy smokes. It fell out of bed once it rejected this high here. We saw the nice head and shoulder triple top. Look at how fast that gapped this entire range of that measured move. That was really easy to spot. If you were with us the week before, we called this out. We knew it was going to nail this pretty easy. Now we've breached it. We're running for probably half a measure move back to close this gap here. I'm going to stick a pivot line in there as a bear target right in about half of this box, about 98 bucks. That's where we're looking for closing that gap, and maybe then we can go and say, okay, we can buy Disney for a little while here, but look at the big picture. There's still reversion targets for all this mess. I mean, this has been nuttier than a fruitcake as far as Disney trades go. Easy shorts. Every once in a while, you get a little rebound trade. For the most part, it's staying very respectable to previous price action, and it's really become pretty easy to trade. So look a little further left. I mean, you've got the high-low here. About the middle of that kind of splits into a mean reversion anyway. So, you know, reversion trades are probably the easiest ones to trade. Highest probability of follow-through. Trade the reversions. They're really simple. Cramer said buy this yesterday, and man, that's a Cramer bar. Yes, we're going to lock that into the Urban Dictionary at some point and say, what's a Cramer bar? Well, it's a big old range candle that usually is a sell-off when Cramer says to buy something. That's a Cramer bar. I'm going to put that in the dictionary as soon as I can. Moving on, Cisco is another one he said buy. Well, you got to remember, he broadcast this in the evening, and this thing took a certain dive here. Looking for a mean reversion, so not quite a half a kudo. I think this will be a better short later on, but mean reversion to about 74 or so seems appropriate. May not quite make it there. Look left a little bit further, and you'll see 4 hours shows you right in this consolidation. There's a bar right here where we just met and rejected, so maybe it won't make a full reversion to 74. Maybe we could say this can become a good short sooner than later. And that certainly is looking like a bear flag. So watch this break over, see if we break the mean here. We might continue to run this down, probably see the close of the day around 72.50 or 73 or so, and maybe further on into a short later on. So yeah, I'm not giving any kudos for this one. This one's definitely a top tick. Don't go chasing Cramer, guys. Snowflake, however, I might agree with him on this one. He said buy this. Looking at the daily chart, we have a pretty nasty gap down. We found the mean right in here, and it's setting up for a bit of a head and shoulders play. We can see a pullback test support here. Maybe we get a little bit of a neck break outside of this range and start to trend out. Watch it in this area. Certainly realize this is market structure doing its thing. There's your high, there's your low. All the hype was sold off, capitalized, consolidated forever. Typical short squeeze is what we saw lately, and then we usually will see a revisit to the low after a short squeeze such as this. Typical market structure anyway, and we found buyers right at that low. So we can run back for a reversion trade, maybe even a trend trade later. So a very delayed kudos to Cramer on this one. But watch this pattern first. It's got to follow through, and head and shoulders patterns don't always work out. Sometimes they fail. So certainly be aware of that. Notice that in NVIDIA's earnings last night, it spiked right to a liquidity zone, and that was actually factual right in here. Looking at the price action into this liquidity zone already being there, a mean reversion is set up. So there's your high. You can see clearly here's our low. So if we breach this double bottom reversal here, it's pretty easy to go right back to reversion. So look for a move back slowly to 170. Maybe this will shake out, break a neckline, and continue higher. But you know, it's going to be a trader stock for sure until then. Don't just go up and invest in this thing. I do know that the options chain is very fruitful for this thing. If you want to try and wheel trade it, it's certainly got that potential. And we could see some bigger moves coming up soon. And man, these gaps, if they ever fill, payday. So keep an eye on this thing. It's going to be fun. Lunar. Rumor has it they're going to get some sort of NASA contracts or whatever. You know, buy the rumor, sell the news. There's your rumor. Now we're consolidated. We can see that you know, new market structure has been found. There's consolidation in here. Just a range trade at this point, but it's a pretty easy measured move. You can see here continuing off this bear flag. Probably going to set us up right around the pivot or so for a continuation move, just below half a move down. If it breaks this $4.50 level, That is kind of critical support for this pattern altogether. So if this follows through for a full measured move, we could see it go lower. So Cramer's saying buy this one, and we tend to see this happen every time. It just provides liquidities for a lot of institutional traders to take advantage of. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who will do whatever Cramer says, and us price action analysts know better than to do that. We always look at the chart. The chart doesn't fudge the truth. It doesn't base itself on a bunch of loose fundamental information. It's just facts, and usually price history tends to revisit itself in pretty predictable ways. So watch for an outside move to breach this low and maybe breach this reversion target here and start to trend. Later on, maybe we can turn this into a buy at some point, but the news is being sold on this one. So be a little cautious before you jump into this. Let's see. Cramer also mentioned buying Corning. I guess that's one of his darlings, you could call it. So far, a good trade. Certainly people were agreeing with that. It's kind of made a fairly easy measured move setup here. It's kind of met its target for a 1-for-1, and this is like producing the 1.5-for-1, which is typical. Consolidation likely to happen at this point. Kind of watch this area. We could see it consolidate in this range between the half and back to the floor. Maybe revisit this low and then consolidate into a big old bull flag or something later on. Maybe it'll continue, but it's already pretty parabolic, guys. So, whenever you see something that just goes outside like this, it usually will make a pullback at some point. And this is kind of where it's looking like it's going to be right around that 36.50 level. I think I would probably wait on this to go a little lower before we go and buy it. But I guess I can give a little bit of a kudo, but it is a top tick for now until this pullback is complete and or this consolidation breaks range and starts to either run higher or lower. So sit tight with this one. This one's going to be a minute. Axon. I don't know what the deal is, man. Do these guys need to get into like the thing that GoPro did? I mean, they're in a lot of law enforcement, a lot of militaries carry these things, and just all sorts of fun, government contracts for these guys. Okay, but I think if they maybe focused a little bit more on the public sector, they might have a little bit more success. I don't know. I don't want to wear a body cam for the stuff that I do, but I could go for like something that, if it's practical, and I like making videos of my mountain biking ventures, maybe they can come up with something useful that actually outperforms a GoPro. It's not hard to do. Some of the generic GoPros actually work better than a GoPro. Just saying. But chart-wise, yeah, I'm not ready to buy this yet. I want to see probably a continuation of this trend a little lower. Let me throw a 2-hour at that. You can see it's basically stepped off. We've been talking about this thing before. This is one of Cramer's favorite stocks to look at. When we start breaching a range by a full measure, and you can see this wick up here is about the same block as this support level, we've made a 1.5 down. So if we see consolidation here, we could say maybe we can buy it later, but look further left, guys. That daily bar is huge. And if you look at a weekly chart, it's a little more resounding that there's support all the way down here, a full block lower. So I'm going to draw another zone here based on the weekly chart. And if I see it get into this area, then I might consider buying it. But for now, I'm going to wait. If I'm an investor in this thing, I'm going to wait. Maybe they'll take my advice and do something more focused on public stuff or, consumer goods. Perhaps. I wouldn't call that advice. I'm not trying to tell them how they run their business, but if they want investors to go long term, they got to do something good. Overall, though, they know what they're doing. They're making money. If things get really nasty for this company, say somebody else comes along and takes a contract away from them, well, reversions are easy to see. If it breaches this zone, we could be a short on this thing. I don't know. kind of an okay stock to trade, but I wouldn't want to go and hold it very much long if I was an investor. What do you think, Marzadi? Is that one of your favorites?
I don't know. I don't follow it, but I mean, looking at the trend there, I mean, it looks pretty much like a sell-off to me.
Kind of
I
does.
agree with you. I agree with your reversion zone down there, right there where your mouse is. But it wasn't an uptrend coming up to it, and it chops around. I think it's going to need news
Agreed.
because it's in a consolidation zone right now. I think it's going to need some kind of news, either directly or something related to it. That rising tide lifts all ships kind of news. But right now, I just see it in a chop zone.
I like that idea. It's definitely in a chop zone. Yeah, and it's going to take news. It's going to take more than Cramer to get anybody to go and chase this thing a little higher. But for now, I'm going to say shame. Man, okay, for a moment it was bullish, but now we're waiting. We're going to wait forever if we have to. One thing I do point out, though, when it comes to liquidity zones, it has kind of hit that halfway point and bounced here. So maybe we get a breach below here, say maybe short below 282 and finish the move. But if it holds here and starts to revert, you might see a quick move, back to revert this trend here. You can see there's consolidation here briefly, maybe 285.50, and then possibly back to short again. So it'll be good for day trading, okay for swing trading, but I wouldn't want to just buy and hold this thing. Not now.
Did he say to buy or sell this one? I missed that.
He said buy this one.
What?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
this has got. Well, okay. I mean, you can't not look at this and see this is a downward trend. For goodness sakes, what makes you think this thing's going to turn north?
I don't know, man. That's the fundamentals. I think he looks at some of the fundamentals and just gets excited. And I'm pretty sure he's been following this stock for quite a while. I'm pretty sure this is a big position for his club. But he does this all the time. He doesn't necessarily look at technical analysis. He's looking at all the fundamentals. Oh, what a great company, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. if the chart's telling me people aren't with it, I'm going to not be with it. Sorry. The chart doesn't lie. Ah. Yeah, Cramer, I would say shame on you for top ticking this one in a already very well established bear trend. And he's always said buy this thing, and sure, he's right half the time with this trend beforehand, but it's a little late to be saying buy it now. Maybe 10 years from now it'll come back through this high, sure. But for now, I'm going to scalp it as it moves, and the chart
Well,
gives
it
us
has
all of
filled
that.
that gap. It has filled that. Is filling that liquidity gap, and if it's going to resume the overall trend, it's not a bad buy point. If you go back to that, yeah, right there, you see that big liquidity gap, that fair value gap on the left.
Right.
It came into it once. It's come into it now a second time. And second times are a lot of times more dangerous, though, because there's a greater chance it's just going to blow through it.
Right.
Because anybody that wanted to go long there got their chance the first time. No, I don't see this as a good buying point. No, not at all.
No, I'd definitely wait. Be patient. The market will come to you. And if you're an options trader, you get paid for the market to come to you. So if you're looking at this to maybe wait for some sort of sign of this trend reversing, maybe sell some puts in this area, you might be able to do very well with a wheel trade on this thing. And it does have some pretty good interest in the options chain, so maybe it'll become a good trade later on, but I wouldn't buy it right here. I'd wait. Just my opinion. All right, moving on. The last thing he said to buy, and this is, God, I don't know if Cramer's married to this stock or what. ARM. We've scalped the living crap out of this thing. You can see I've been all over this thing with my dope. It's met every target and then some every time we've called it out. And this has been our probably our most accurate trading stock that we've had on this series since we started it with Matthew and I. we've been nailing the crap out of this one, but it's starting to get to a point where it's choppy enough to lose our interest. So I'm kind of thinking maybe we extend into a point where we bounce off of this midpoint on this measured move here. This is a big gap. It's overshot, it's rejected it, it's gone all over the place. Easy trades. It's got to get bullish here before I decide to buy it. And he said buy this thing. And there's your Cramer bar, guys. Right back to support. Um, let's look a little tighter on this thing. You get a little bit of a cup and handle look, as choppy as it is here. We could see it push just under that 118, 95 area, maybe stop at about 118.30. I'd love to see it consolidate in a descending channel here and hold this 113.80 zone for a actual follow through on a cup and handle to run back to this high. But for now, this is a day trader's wet dream for the chop. Swing traders would be a little bit more aware of the volatility in this thing and probably shy away from this one. So for the swing traders or for fund managers, stuff like that, they got a lot bigger positions to manage, and it's sometimes hard to take your exit on a chop like this with a reasonable amount of profit. So a lot of them are going to shy away from this. It's going to be choppy through this zone, and it's going to be a day trader's pretty much a day trader's wet dream at this point. As far as measured moves go, we'll probably see something set up out of this later on. We could see this be our primary, and the mean reversion is done. It can split off of this pivot here and give us a full move above. I'm just going to drag that box above the pivot and say maybe we get this move. But let's wait for it to consolidate first before we make a swing trade out of this. For now, it's leave it to the day traders. We got this.
Well, look left right there where you start that big red bar going. Yeah, right there. Go back. That consolidation, go up right there. That little consolidation chop right there. If it broke above that, I would consider a long. But until it gets there, you're just still in chop.
Yep. It's a day trader stock, guys. Swing traders beware. And I 100% agree with you. That's a good observation there. And, I always like to look at the longer term charts. This one's a fairly fresh IPO back here in 23. On the weekly here, we don't have a lot of dope, but we have market structure taking its shape. We've got this descending megaphone pattern. You can see it's broadening as it descends here. If I drew the lines, it would be one big split. But what my eye needs to see is the regression line of that right here, where we had our bull moves. So we're at angular resistance. We're likely to visit that one more time and then resume, more or less on the long term. I'd say the swing traders and the investors should be aware that this is going to be a day trader's wet dream for a little while, probably for the coming month or more, before we really get into any trending motion. Just don't go chasing Cramer into this. you're going to get lit. Let's move to a sell list. He's only got a few in there, 4 stocks to be exact. He said it's sell RXRX. I don't even know what these guys do. It's a pharmaceutical, obviously. Pretty much does what most pharmaceuticals do. They start out big and hyped, and they hemorrhage money until they come up with something. Well, this is market structure. We can see that we've consolidated in a range for a while. Moving into the weekly, we can see it's been reasonable for swing trades for those of you with smaller capital around the $10 and less stocks. It's pretty good. But for now, we're looking at probably one more range trade, and then we should see a break. But we have a rising broadening pattern here. Typically, those will retrace a low, probably a reversion right to somewhere around here. So, yeah, I can agree with Cramer in saying sell this for the short term, but watch what happens when it hits about 840. We'll probably get a quick reversion back to about 940, get a dollar bill trade out of this thing. Those are fun for swing traders in the $10 range. And, that's a pretty good return percentage-wise. So swing traders will be watching this one. Let's
I
see
would
if...
sell that. Yes, I would sell that because it's a pharmaceutical. You got to remember
Mhm.
that it takes they live off of news events based on clinical trials. And the further they get into their clinical trials, the further the dates get pushed out on phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And all the time, all they're doing is just burning money.
Exactly.
So, you know, if I were going to look at this, I'd have to look at the FDA website there about when their next clinical trial schedule is coming. And in the meantime, these companies start looking for other investors, and that'll give them a pop if they find one. But I see this; these all typically go to $1.
Pretty much.
Uh, just give it time. So if you can buy it at $1, maybe it's not so bad. But I I wouldn't touch this pharmaceutical with a 10-foot pole as far as buying anything,
No,
unless you follow the FDA announcement schedule.
definitely not an investment stock. And pretty much every pharmaceutical, even up to the point of like Johnson and Johnson, the big ones. Yeah, you just realize that that's exactly what they do. They hemorrhage cash, um, bought out. But in the meantime, we get decent trades out of it, and you can see that the chart does respect patterns pretty well. We have a head and shoulders. It popped the neckline. It gave the target for a reversion. Okay, that's all done with. But in the meantime, we got some swings in it. We can agree. Cramer said sell it, and I can agree with him. It got a good, sell signal here. But let's see if it holds the support and gives a reversion trade later on. So you can go for either the short to the pivot and then take a reversion swing on it, or you can just wait for it to hit the peak of that swing and then short it again. So more or less trade with the trend. And we can see there's certainly some more lows to be hit later on possible on this thing. But in the short term, medium term, we can make some swings on it. We'll just have to watch it and see what it gives us. But it's a good tradable stock. And I would certainly never invest in one of these, but I do tend to trade them when they move. And pretty much the rule is scalp it if it moves, and just scalp it. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Take a few base hits and move on. Next one. He's kind of been all over this thing for saying buy it, buy it, buy it in the past, but then he's just said to sell it. Well, I think yeah, for about 10 minutes we can sell it, but once it hits this liquidity zone, I'm pretty sure this thing's going to go a little higher shortly in range here. Be careful though. Pardon. Not in perfect health today. My allergies are kind of funny. We have a couple pivot areas that we can look left on the daily chart here. Let's see if we get a quick doji close on the daily bar here. Maybe get a visit back to 53.70. Not a huge amount of range for interest for day traders, but swing traders might be looking for a gap close on this thing. So let's see if it breaks that range and gives us a little higher in the short term, medium term. Just because Cramer said sell it doesn't mean I'm going to go and buy it. But when you look at the price action, this thing goes pretty big when it does get news. And this is probably after earnings. Here's the earnings here. You can see there wasn't much movement into the day, but after hours it swung right back up to a reversion pivot, or more or less touched it. Came back, hit support, and then blasted through it. Well, there's another gap here. Some people will be chasing this bullish to try and buy it and run it up this gap. But realize that at some point, it's probably going to come back and trade this range a couple more times before it goes anywhere. And if it goes and reverts half of this, that's what this pivot's for. That's half that bar. And it takes it back to about a previous support point. So short term, some of the longs are looking to scalp this for a quick, and they've already done it right here, for a quick reversion trade on a day trade setup. Easy mark, right? But look what happened yesterday. I mean, all that range usually gets revisited. So let's see if it gets back into a short-term consolidation, push up to 53.70, and then drop down in this range, test support, accumulate. Maybe it'll make an attempt to break this pivot and run for that gap. Hard to say, but short-term, Cramer said sell it yesterday, and certainly some people did, but I think they're going to try and push this right back to that limit again before they actually sell it. So wait and see on this one before you go chasing Cramer to sell this short. But if it does break over and break this range, we have short targets all over the place. Pretty easy to look left and find all the ledges. So it'll go a little higher before it goes lower, I think. Moving on. No idea what these guys do. Cramer said sell them. Okay. Not an interesting chart to me. You got the Cramer bar. Okay, some people agreed with him. What do these guys do? Oh, med systems. That's just like a pharmaceutical. They tend to hemorrhage cash. Let's mark it up. Got a key pivot right here. Pretty easy, 81.20. You can see that maybe market structure hasn't had its way with this thing just yet on this move. Let's see if we can get into a good short on this one and possibly break this line, run for reversion back down to about here or so. Give you a nice $4 or $5 move down below this pivot. Might be setting up for a decent short. So, okay, we give Cramer one kudo today. This was a good sell. Would I invest in this thing? No. Last one, Kratos Defense, sorry. If you're a gamer, and I had been a gamer, I still have my headset. I love this thing. Let me talk about this a little bit. Kratos, great character. God of War was an awesome video game series. Played every one of them. Loved it. Still love it. Awesome stock for performance for swing traders. Let's look way far to the left. Let's go to the monthly chart and realize market structure has accumulated forever on this thing. And we got our surefire short squeeze, which is after consolidation. It usually picks up one of these pivot points back here. Anytime I trade a penny stock that's in this level, I usually just mark the highs with a pivot, trade from A to B, take profit, and walk away. Well, it came back down, it hit the support level, which is the mean of this long consolidation from low to high. Came back, made a mean reversion of the previous trend, and stopped there. Cramer comes out and says, sell this last night. Kind of obvious, but someone took it right to the top of that range, and we're looking for a reversion trade. So, yeah, I guess we'll give them another kudo on this one. Let's see if we get back to like $19.80, come back to earth on this thing. But it is a defense and security solutions type of company, so careful because news can bite you if you're short on this thing. So watch for maybe a reversion trade for swing traders. Make sure you pay close attention to hedge this somehow if you're going to try and swing it short. I would rather wait for it to hit this mark and maybe take a long on it later. So yeah, it's been parabolic. Yeah, it's in a range. It's been choppy. It's good for day traders and okay for swing traders, but we like to take these with a little grain of salt when it comes to investing in them. I don't see a reason to go really long on this until it hits a support point because it's been parabolic for too long. Parallelic. Can't talk. But look for a reversion trade in the short term. Maybe we say, okay, we can agree with Cramer and run it down. Don't discredit half that move, and that's going to be pretty much right in here too. So I'm going to delete that one now. Look for this pivot, run down to about 21 bucks. If it can breach this, we'll get a quick short to the next pivot. Pretty easy. If it holds here and consolidates into a bull flag, be aware that this is a defense contractor. We're in some unstable times in the Mideast. Anytime we could probably deploy more troops, go to the endless war or whatever. You know, we got the thing that's been dragging on over and you know, between Russia and the Ukraine. All that stuff makes these stocks move, and you know, you get any tension in the Middle East, that's kind of what's driven this all up. You know, pretty much anytime there's a mention of possibility of any kind of war or fighting in the world, these things do well. So, you know, they didn't name it Kratos for nothing. They very appropriately named stock. But let's look for some swing trades on this thing. We'll see if it holds a pivot at 21 and gives us a signal to go long on it, on possibly catching the bottom range of a bull flag here. And if it can hold that, cool. If it breaches it, maybe we get a quick short, reversion trades, be sure and mark out the obvious here. There's a ledge here. Not huge movement, but decent for swing trading. I'll have to look into the options chain on this thing. It might be worth wheeling, but just be aware that it's going to be eating some lunch at some point. Those are some big moves, guys. And also take a note, it's in a reversion level from the long term, so I wouldn't say follow Cramer into a sell on this thing. It's probably going to range here for a while, but in the meantime, trade it as it moves. I think that's about it, unless we got any runners up mentioned that Cramer didn't mention. I like my IBM trade so far. Ran right to half the gap, kind of accumulated here. I had long from this break onward, and took some debit spreads, turned them into butterflies over the past couple of days. Turned half, not quite half of them, but I've covered my risk completely, so I'm just sitting pretty. If this thing ranges off of 172 and continues to run back through that 175 mark, and then onward to 180 for a reversion trade, I'll be sitting pretty with my butterflies and my debit spreads. I'm considering taking profit on a couple of the debit spreads if it breaches below a little bit. I've got enough cushion in this thing where I could do anything I want with it. Realistically, though, it's been pretty parabolic, so I'm looking for some of these pullbacks to maybe make some adjustments. Maybe I'll buy back a couple short legs on my butterflies and then sell them again later, lock in some more profit, whatever. But IBM's been a great trading stock lately, and if you look at some of the other sectors, like the ones that kind of trade in the sector, like NVIDIA, I mean, the earnings was just incredible last night. You get into these range trades and you start looking at measured moves that just pop up. And, you can look left and find any one of these bars, just pops it right up to this target. This is outside of what was, deemed reasonable by most people, but we were expecting, what, a $78 move in the options world. They were expecting either a move up of 78 or a move down to 78. We had the low targets marked out. No one was marking this level up here. So let's look at the weekly chart. We've been just absolutely ripping in this trend for quite a while. If we take this as a primary, we've gone to 1/4 measured move after this pullback. It's got room to run way higher, and it's just trending on. So let's look at the 2-hour again and realize this is our primary. That's our accumulation. We've reached half of a secondary and wicked over at about 1052.50. And, well, 1051.96 was the high. 1052. Look for consolidation here. We may finish a move higher, and let's draw the block here. I'm going to always split the mean on consolidation. Halfway point. We're in the midst of running possibly as high as like 1075 on that bad boy. And don't take my word for it, trade it as it comes, but I'm certainly still bullish on NVIDIA. I think it's got plenty of room to run a little higher. All right, well, my voice is failing me. Allergies have finally caught up to me. I woke up a little cold this morning, so I think it's time to call it. Thanks again for joining me. And next week we'll have Matthew back, and we'll be poking some fun at Cramer. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell your friends. We really appreciate the growth that you guys have been helping us with on this channel. And we're looking to grow our community as much as possible because we love being able to give back. Our moderators trade for a living, so what we do is very well thought out, well learned, and we're getting pretty good at being able to teach people how to basically trade in the coattails of the big dogs. And we've even had a few institutional traders come through our ranks here. So be aware, we do what we do because we love being able to help people, and that's the bottom line. And we love giving a hand up to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to control their own portfolios and not just hand the money over to some fund manager and go, here you go, you have the keys to my life, buddy. Many people have kind of withdrawn from a lot of these big funds, and the reason being is because they've been cooked. I mean, a lot of people are looking to retire on this stuff. We're looking to generate an income on this until we're ready to retire. So it's a totally different thing. When you treat everything as an income strategy instead of a let's get rich quick strategy, things become easier, and that's why we're here. We love to be able to pay that forward and teach others how to do it. And we can't do that without your support. So we do appreciate your support. Thank you very kindly. Anyway, we'll see you next week. We'll keep throwing fun at Cramer, and then Matthew and I were talking about maybe doing the end of the next earnings week. We'll probably our next earnings season. We'll probably do a little bit of work on picking over Cramer's strategy, where he has that plan going into earnings on Fridays, and we'll do the follow up on Mondays and see how right we were. So we're looking to put something together like that. Maybe get a little bit more high volatility action into the mix, and come to think of it, we've got a few products we can look at for being able to take advantage of leverage in those too. So that's where the real fun is at. Some of those leveraged ETFs are becoming very attractive now, and we're not the only ones who realize it. Just a couple weeks ago, Wall Street Journal printed an article naming and quoting me in it about these leveraged ETFs. That's just the beginning. If you've been following me along for my TNA wheel trade, I've been killing that thing. That's a triple leveraged. Double leveraged, even easier. But the volatility that they bring is where it's at. So we're going to show you how to do some serious income strategies on those in the near future, as well as with our group. So we're going to bring that public as well as private. Get into the details. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next week.